Welcome to the Green Grind Podcast, where we discuss real experience, real struggles, and real business. My name is Leroy Maines. I'm with Brilliant Borders Landscaping, and we have Corey Ballard with Perfect Cut Site Management and Ballard Innovative Products. As always, we have Kaz, who's the brains of this thing, getting it from our mouth to your ears and eyes. Just a friendly reminder that the Green Grind is sponsored by Jobber and Hustler. And today, Corey and I are talking with Jonas Olson from Turf Badger. Jonas is the CEO of Turf Badger, and he's located in Michigan. Jonas, welcome to the Green Grind. We're glad to have you on our show today.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've known Corey for a few years now, so.
Yeah, and I Jonas, I think you came down and visited our facility maybe, God, I don't know, has it been 5-6 years ago maybe now at this point?
Yeah,
about
5 years.
Yeah, we've made a lot of changes with our facilities and our company as well, and it looks like you've been doing the same. So, man, we're glad to have you on and excited to hear about what you've been working on over there. And so we'll dig in here and find out a little bit more about what you got going on.
Cool, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. Jonas, can you tell us, for our listeners who don't know who you are, a little bit about you, your company, and how you got your start?
Sure. My name is Jonas Olson, owner of Turf Badger. Been at this for probably close to 10 years now. I started a small mowing company, kind of like everyone else, knocking doors. My first client was my grandma, and then started knocking her neighbors' doors, and she gave me a couple of referrals, and then I did part-time for about 2 years, and I was working a full-time job still, Monday through Thursday. I'd come home, cut grass Saturday through Sunday. And then I had a baby, and then things changed, so I couldn't be on the road as much. So I decided that this was the time to go all in. And I got my first real account. One of my friends is getting out of the industry. He said, hey, you should just come check out this property as a commercial account. And to this day, I sold the company 2 years ago, but to this day that they're still a client of ours. So had
Nice.
those guys for about 12 years.
Nice. You sold the company. We'll have to get into that in a minute because I think there's been a name change and some other stuff you're working on. But so
sure.
we'll jump into that here.
So, Jonas, what services do you offer today, and what size is your company today?
We're great. Last year did about 3.5 million. This year we're projected to hit about 8. If everything looks good on paper, right? But it could all explode, so we'll see what happens.
Awesome. Well, one of our things we've really been working on, and we've been telling our listeners this, is we've really, we've had a lot of smaller operators on, and this year our focus is really getting those guys that are at that $3, $4, $5 million mark, and how they got there, the struggles, just to do some inspiration, and that's a great story here, and guys that are small, but I think a lot of our listeners want to know what's it take to get to that next level, and to go from 3.5 to 8. I was certainly in major growth mode at different times in our history, and there's a lot of struggles that go along with that. Backing up just a little bit, Jonas. So you mentioned that you sold the company because at one point was it a different name, and then now you're Turf Badger, right? So can you walk us through kind of what happened there, and then how you, I guess, changed your focus or your business model, name, how that came about?
For sure. So we were Olson's Lawn and Pest for 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
And we were doing landscaping, snow removal, mowing, fertilization, weed control, a little bit of pest control, doing every service imaginable. And I was just sick of running that type of business, and it wasn't scalable for me and my location. So what I did is I ended up selling that company actually to my office manager at the time. Her and her husband bought it. I kept the fertilization, weed control, and pest control services, and then I just ran with that. And then that year COVID hit. So I was doing like almost 3 million then. I dropped back down to just under 500,000. And then COVID hit, and we were starting a new business. I'm like, oh man, I didn't really know what to do. Now I had a little bit of income from the company sale, but it wasn't all up front. They paid me all of it. Some of it was a back end deal too. So I had a little bit of cash, not a whole lot. So I was waiting around trying to figure out what to do, kind of like the rest of us. March hit, and I was with my daughter's birthday, like March 16th is when it shut down. Michigan, especially, they were really shut down. We couldn't do any services at all. I know when we got a snowstorm then, they let us go out and plow snow, but you couldn't always count on that. So what happened is Wisconsin was still opened up, and I decided that I've always wanted to open up a second branch in Wisconsin. So I started driving to Green Bay, Wisconsin every single day. So we go about 4 o'clock in the morning, drive to Green Bay every single day, start knocking doors down there. And then now that's one of our biggest offices. So that's just kind of how it got started. And then I realized quickly that the fertilization weed control services are way more profitable, way more scalable. afford to, there's less overhead. You can afford to pay better employees. There's for better equipment, less, like I said, again, less overhead, less big equipment. Instead of a $12,000 mower, running around with $200 backpack sprayer. So that was the model that we decided to go with. And then from there, it's just like, okay, we started getting good at the whole knocking doors thing myself. Then I trained the next person to do it and the next person to do it. And as of yesterday, we hired our 52nd sales guy. We're pushing to have 75. So
nice.
That's kind of where we're at right now.
So, part of that, when you sold your part of your services off, at that point, did you have a new focus? Like, okay, we're going to just, I just want to focus on the fertilization and pest control. And was it because of the profitability? Was it the scalability? Was it just because you felt like that was a better model for you? Because a lot of guys, we talk to just a ton of guys, and everybody, we all cut grass, right? And then they want to be hardscapers, and everybody, hey, it snows, right? So now we're in the snow business, and I think the companies that excel figure out what they're best at, what's my model, and how do I become the best in my market at that? And was that your thought on sticking to just a few lines of service?
Yeah, so I hired a CFO during those times too. So again, scaling all the way back, but I had a CFO. We looked at the numbers really closely, or he did, and then he told me. And just looking at the numbers that we're doing in mowing versus fertilization, weed control, or pest control, just to make sense in my market. I have friends that are in great markets that run a super profitable company doing mowing. So I'm not saying they can't do it, but in my market, specifically, it was tough. Not a very big market. You had to do a lot of traveling, competitive pricing, things like that. And I decided that I just didn't want to be there anymore. So just taking the service that I know that we were really good at, niching down to what I really want to do. And they always say, like, figure out who you really want to be, and what your company is going to look like in the future. And that's kind of what we did. We just scaled back, and then we went from 500,000 to 3.5 million in about 18 months. So it was a good push.
Well, our listeners are going to be saying, how'd you do that, right? Is that what you're thinking?
Well,
right?
That's what I'm thinking, and I want to go from how do we get from 3.5 to 8 this year too? And my guess is there's a branch opening somewhere along the lines.
Let's back up first.
But
and
yes, I do want to know that as well. But yeah, I got some.
How did you get?
Too.
You're at 500,000, and how do you get to 3.5? Because those services, I don't need to tell you this, but you got to get a lot of customers. You're not doing $1 million landscape installs, so to scale at that volume of revenue, you've got to gain thousands of clients. And so how did you get the phone to ring? What was the marketing strategy? What were you doing to not only get the phone to ring, but then somebody's got to field them. Somebody's got to do the estimate. Someone's got to close the deal. And then, of course, you got to execute, which we can get to. But how did you get that type of scalability that quick?
It's there was no secret sauce, but it was a little bit of everything, being online, of course. But then just doing old school tactics, like door hangers, every door direct mailers, handwritten letters, knocking on people's doors. And then I'll honestly be lucky. I say that I got lucky, but I recruited a kid. It took me 7 months to recruit him. I knew he'd be really good in sales. I was texting his mom, calling his dad, saying, hey, come work with us. And he wouldn't give me the time of day, but I knew he'd be really good. And then COVID hit again, like I said, and he actually called me back. He lost his job being a waiter at the time. Said, hey, I'd like to come just to check it out. And said, all right. So he came in, he followed me for a day, and I think I could do this. And we actually started in the office making phone calls, right? Just cold calling people. His first call, he was so nervous. The person answered, he hung up on him.
I used to do that with girls.
Yeah. So then he went in the back room. He called me. We practiced again. And then the next thing you know, we had a bunch of old leads that we were going through. We started calling our old leads that we had in the past and just started hammering it. And then all of a sudden he started doing really good. Then a second and third guy, one found us, and another guy we found. So we had 3 guys in the sales room. And so we had a bunch of leads from the year before. Again, call. We did 100,000 of revenue in the sales room in 3 weeks. We're like, holy crap, this is pretty awesome. And then from there, then spring hit. So we started knocking doors, getting leads, having the office call, follow up. Again, every door direct mailers, being online, all this stuff. This guerrilla warfare. I didn't have a backup plan, so it had to work. So when I say I'm literally knocking on doors, I'm knocking on doors. First door I went to go knock, I about threw up, and I haven't done it in 10 years. We forget about those things we did in the past. So I walked away. And it took a minute, walked back up, and then actually knocked on the door again. and I sold that customer. And then from there, it was over. I'm like, okay, I got this now. But I didn't have a backup plan that had to work. And so it's just all in, like from the silly things of putting like door hangers on people's doors at the mall. Like I did whatever it took to get her name out there.
Right.
So, and that's just what happened. And then, then next thing you know, we had 3 people, we had 5 people. Then the first year, I think we ended up with 8 or 9 sales guys.
And when you say sales guys, Jonas, are those sales guys also, are they running a route? So are they selling and then running that route? Or are they just, just in the office making sales? And then you've got your applicators and your team out in the field?
Yep. So
okay.
A combination of, trying to get our applicators to knock on the doors around them to get leads for our guys in the office, like simple things that you can do that think outside the box. Because everyone that's online, you guys are all fighting for the same leads. Like I don't see them getting any cheaper, $150, $180 for a good fertilization weed control pest control lead, right? But you can go pay your sales guy the same amount, $100, $150 to go out and close the deal. But you're not paying for leads anymore, you're paying for new customers. So that's the model that we decided to take, and it's been obviously working pretty well for us at this point. And now it's just like, how do we duplicate that? And you brought up a good point. And yeah, we actually opened up 3 offices, and we opened up one in last September. That'll be a really good size office. It's already doing well. We just launched our 4th office in Wisconsin last Monday, and then our 5th office opens on in 3 weeks from today, actually. So
fantastic. I like a couple things you said there, and sometimes guys forget this, and we've done this as well. Is calling old leads. So when we were in the residential world, especially doing a lot of lawn applications, we would call lost customers back and say, we serviced you, in 2017, in 2018, and we see that you changed providers. Are you happy with your current providers? Or, and it was amazing that how many people say, you know what, actually, I'm not happy. I'd love for you guys to come back out. And so I think people think once you lose a customer, they're gone. And that's just, especially in that type of business, it could be mowing as well. There's so much opportunity. You've got this database of people that use your services at one point, go back through and hit them back up. And we got great results that way as well. And it was amazing how many people, because we looked at this deal and we're like, we have thousands of customers that we've lost over the years. Can we get 100 of them back? Can we get 200 of them back? And it was pretty shocking. In the winter, we had people just sitting down making courtesy calls. And it was amazing how many people said, you know what, I'd love to get an estimate again. I'd love to get you guys back here. I thought I'd be happy with True Green. They gave me a flyer and a free lawn app and all this bullshit that, kind of seems enticing. But you know what? I'm not happy with my services. I'd love to get you back in there.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And usually,
go ahead.
I would say usually with, the smaller companies like us, like we charge a little bit more than maybe a True Green does, but you get what you pay for. And so they can, like Corey said, they get a flyer. It's $48 for their first app or whatever. It's like, oh, this sounds like a good deal. I'm going to leave because of price. 2 years later, they go by and their lawn's not doing so great. I'm not just saying True Green, but anyone.
Right.
True is just who we talked about. There's a lot of good franchisees that are True Greens, but then Corey said, like, let's just say you have a client base of 5,000 people, and if you close at 10%, you've already paid for these leads in the past. Your marketing has. So you close at 10%, that's 500 new clients in a matter of a month. So people just either don't know or just forget about a simple thing like that you can do. So
yeah, it doesn't have to be difficult to do that, I don't believe. But Jonas, one of the questions that I've got for you, with all this growth that you've had, and you talked about the scalability before, what did you have to add for office staff? I just look at, the business model that you have now, and, when you were doing $3.5 million at $100,000 a pop is fairly easy to do when you're doing it at $100,000 a pop. When you're doing it at $100 a pop, like you're doing it, I can't imagine the clerical staff and the office staff you have to have behind something like that. Was that something that you anticipated doing, and did you have to add a ton of support behind those?
Not a ton, but obviously we had to add some office staff. And then during our busy months, we had a couple of part-time girls in the office that just will answer like the sales guys' phone calls. Because that's what actually clogs up the system is those guys. But for the most part, I would say that the sales guys can do 90 to 99% of the work themselves. So from getting the sale and getting the signed agreement, put their credit card in, and then actually scheduling the service for whenever you guys need it too. So they can pretty much do it all out there too.
Yeah,
so the infrastructure's not too.
So I'm assuming then you probably have some sort of software that automatically hits their card every time that your techs are at their home and doing those types of things, and the sales guy handles all that for you then.
Yeah,
exactly. Even some of the CSR calls, like like a lot of those customers will call our sales reps individually too. So
Nice.
and they have apps on their phone that it's all recorded out in the field too. So
Yeah, because I wrote down card on file because I assume when you're dealing with that many clients, to invoice people, to invoice thousands of residential, and then you're waiting to get paid, and then you can't do round 2 because you haven't got paid for round 1, and so are you a credit card on file only, or how do you handle payment?
yeah, we do ACH or credit card only. We don't do cash. If they want to pay in check, obviously we'll just say, yeah, you pay for the whole year, perfect.
Right.
You know, not a big deal.
But you're not
So
sending
they'll take
invoices. You're not sending. You're not sending
Well,
monthly invoices.
no, and like again, that goes back to the old business model. Like I've had months where there's been a couple $100,000 in accounts receivable, and like I hate it. Like
Yep.
I don't want to do this anymore. And so we just got when I sold the business, we changed the whole new model. So like billing monthly, like charging quarterly or bi-monthly or whatever the service looks like. Just put them on a monthly recurring service and send it.
Yeah, I can tell you that, when we changed our model, we used to have these Tuesday meetings. I've said this so many times, and we would go through our accounts receivable every Tuesday with our team, and it was so just exhausting. And we'd go through and we'd have, where's your cash? Well, it's all owed to us, and it was who's going to call who, so and so, and it was a nightmare. And a lot of companies will say, and a lot of guys we talk to, and small guys too, well, my customers won't give us a credit card, and that's just not true. You do have to tell them in a professional way, but when you go to Target and get your groceries or you don't just be like, hey man, send me a bill. Like, or my guy comes and fixes my washer or dryer. He literally needs a credit card when he's fixing it. He doesn't just leave and bill me. I think times have changed. I remember when we switched to credit card on file only. I think we lost some clients. It was a small amount, but we were okay with that because we just said, guys, this model does not work anymore. We cannot go do lawn apps and send an invoice. You got an invoice and you've got an envelope, and then you've got a postage, and you got to send it to them, and then we're making calls, and then they don't pay on time, so then it gets them out of route. Because if you didn't pay for round 1, we wouldn't do round 2. So then we're waiting to get paid for round 1, and then the routing's all screwed up. I hear people all the time, like, my customers they just won't give me a credit card. They're not comfortable with that. And I'm like, then you got the wrong customers, because that's just the way it works today.
Well, are the customers not, the customer's not comfortable with it, or are you not comfortable asking? I think that's probably a lot of it, because I think this day and age, if somebody asks me for, hey, can I get your credit card or your bank account information, and we'll just automatically do it every single month, I'm like, oh, I'm in. I don't want to send it, because I forget all the time. And if they send it to me, on my computer, then it just gets buried in my inbox and never gets paid. Yeah, it's so much easier to get paid that way, I think.
That's the way I like to do it. I can tell you the services we have done at our home, the window cleaning company that comes once a month. I don't want an invoice from them. Right. I just want my credit card charged once a month. I just want my windows clean. Yeah. And I just want it paid. I don't even know where my checkbook's at. Don't send me an invoice. I don't even know. I haven't wrote a check in so long. I don't even know where that freaking thing's at. But I want to back up real quick too, Jonas, because you said something I thought was really important, and I hope our guys can get something out of this. But doing like fake phone calls, and I think that's important with fake meetings as well. Not fake, but have a guy when you've got new people that you're training. I really like that you said that. Like, literally go to another office, have him call you and sell you. Like, you're the customer. We've done that as well, and we've had people that are really good, but they're like, man, I'm just not comfortable on the phone. I don't really know how to have that conversation, and so we've done that a lot as well. And so I think there's a lot of valuable information there where, and I don't know why some people they're really good talkers. Then they grab the phone and Mrs. Smith answers, and they're like, do you want lawn apps? And so we built templates, and I'm sure you probably have something as well like that. And we have, here's how we introduce ourselves. Here's what we ask. Here's the questions. We want you to not be a robot, but also here's the things we ask them, what's important to them, all these different things. But I like that you said that, where if you've got new people and you're training them, we've done a lot of that in the past. We don't do it anymore because we're not in the residential world. But I think that's a great piece of advice for you guys, that if you have somebody new, have them do meetings with you. Pretend you're the client, or have somebody else that a friend or family, like, hey man, I want you to go pretend you're selling a landscape or a mowing job or lawn apps, whatever that may be, and it just gets them comfortable on kind of how that interaction is going to go.
Yeah, I agree. So we make all of our CSRs and all of our sales guys role play every single morning.
Role play,
so
key.
Every single day. Like, if they're cold calling or if they're just answering phones, we still have a script. And like Corey said, we don't want you to sound like a robot. So the script is just there just to go by. But then after you get used to it, you put your own energy into it. You make it a little bit, you change it up, make it a little bit more yours. But yeah, just the script is there. It's kind of like the skeleton of our body. We all have the same exact skeleton, but we look a little different. Kind of the same thing with the script. It's roughly the same, but a little bit different for each person because everyone's going to talk a little bit different. Everyone's going to sell a little bit different. So.
Yeah, and I think it's important too to teach your people how to, handle tough conversations as well, upset customers. How do you navigate an upset customer, and what do we say? What is the protocol for when somebody's upset? And how do we handle that? And so it's I think the role play. So can you walk us through that real quick? I just think that's something interesting because you're doing it every day. So what's that look like in the morning then? How does that play out for you guys?
So for our CSRs, they're usually 8:00. They'll jump on a phone call with each other, like I said, or they'll do it in person. Let's kind of go through their scripting. We'll switch it up every single day, like you said, whether it's a new call or a cancel client. We go over cancel clients, why they're canceling, what the reasons are, and then if we can save them. We'll go through that. And then for our sales guys, they usually start at like 9:00. We usually have a morning meeting from 9 to 10. During that morning meeting, we're doing sales trainings, talking about the service, what maybe the bug of the month or something like that, or a weed of the month, whatever that might look like. And then from there, we take 15 minutes. Each person grabs a partner. Usually it's a rookie with a good sales guy, and they're just pitching each other back and forth, going over some common smoke screens or objections. And then from there, they're out to work.
Nice. So a CSR is a customer service rep. I assume that's what that CSR stands for. Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. So Jonas, what type of training are you doing with your techs that actually go out and do these things? Because obviously, you just said bugs and weeds. I mean, there's a whole lot of bugs. There's a whole lot of weeds. There's all sorts of information that these guys. And I'm assuming they have to be licensed in your state. So I'm assuming you have to do that. What's your procedure for doing that?
So again, I hired like a COO, not directly a COO, but she's over operations. Not even we have an operations manager, of course, but what's her title is actually like I guess she has a COO title, but she's just not quite there yet. She's only been with us a few months. Mm-hmm. And even last year with our operations guy, we had some really good training internally. And then our director of operations, she just brought on a whole new level of training. Like it's all built out like through like Trainual. She uses a bunch of Trainual stuff. She has a bunch of like PDF documents with Google tests through it. Like there's just a bunch. And then from there, there's an onboarding process too. Like they have to do ride-alongs for a week or 2 weeks or whatever the process looks like. I don't dive deep into the operation side anymore, even though that's where I used to be. I'm not there. She could probably tell you more than I could, but my director of operations, she is amazing. And they always say like you guys always say, hire faster, hire faster, hire faster. And my squirrel brain back in the day was like, oh yeah, I'm just going to hire more sales guys, more technicians. And it's not that. It's like the high level people that can really move the needle. So when I hired my CFO, really moved the needle. When I hired my really good sales guys, really moved the needle. And now that we hired a director of operations, again, she's moving the needle. So it's those type of hires that are really, really take the business forward.
Yeah.
Like we're the biggest cog in the wheel all the time. Hire the good people and get out of the way.
Yeah, I just told somebody that about an hour ago. I said, I create chaos, so I have to surround myself with really good people. I know what I'm good at, and then I try to surround myself with people that are really good at their piece of it, and then I have to allow them to fully own and manage that completely, and I just got to get out of the way. When I get out of the way, things tend to go much better. I don't know about you, Leroy.
Yeah, the leadership is huge in any organization, I think. And if you have leaders at those high levels, they're gonna pull the people that are below them up, I believe, every single time. And it just seems to work so well with that. And I know, every single company that you talk to that grows and grows big and gets to be big and does well, they at some point have a leadership change, I think. And it seems that leader, it continues to take that organization to the next level. And it sounds like you've kind of figured that out.
Well, as you said, when we had Matt on here too, what Jonas is saying is the same thing. Matt, we talk about, he's not talking about doing lawn apps. He's talking about people,
right?
And when you hire the best people, and we get that a lot too, where I can't afford them. And I'm like, man, you can't not afford them. When you get great people, man, and you get A players, and I just call them A players. When you get A players, man, they pay for themselves and they change your entire business model. And I hear that from a lot of people, man. I can't afford an operations manager. I can't afford to get a sales guy. It's like, man, you can't afford not to, or you can. I mean, you can. You're just going to have to stay where you're at, and you're going to be stagnant. You're going to stay, doing exactly what you want to do, or doing what you're doing. But if you want to scale and you want to grow, you've got to figure out, what skill set do I have and what skill set do I need to surround myself with to get to that next level? And that's what you're doing. What do we got? I mean,
I would say that pride kind of gets in the way to a lot of entrepreneurs. I think we can do it all ourselves. We're the smartest person in the room. We figured it all out. But you get those high level people like that are really good at one specific area in the company. Like, man, they know so much more than you do. It's like,
yep.
So I say, just again, get out of the way, hire the good people, get out of the way, and it goes way faster.
So Jonas, what hiring practices have you figured out to hire your techs and your CSRs that you have? Because obviously, you're spending a ton of time with training and investing in them. Each person that you have is obviously costing you quite a bit of money. What are you doing to hire and to retain those people? What are you looking for out of these people that typically get them to stay with your organization?
Are you talking about like technicians or sales guys?
Technicians and your CSRs, basically your line level people that are dealing with your customers and going out every day.
Yeah, so our CSRs has been, knock on wood, we haven't had any issues getting those people in. We've built a really good reputation in our community, and it feels like we have a lot of people coming to us all the time. Mm-hmm. But obviously in the new markets, it gets a little bit harder because people don't know who we are. So like it goes back to the old school recruiting. Like, we're not looking for the people who don't have jobs at this point. We don't want those. We already know that those aren't going to be A or B players, right? So we're trying to find the people who already have jobs, that are maybe looking to move, or the leadership isn't that great. They're looking to do bigger and better things, maybe to build a monster with us. Like, we don't sell them like this is going to be the easiest job ever. We'll sell them on, if you're ready to grow and want to help us build a company, this will be the company to join. So again, if you're out to dinner, you're talking to a good waitress or a waiter, and they're really good with people, like those people that you want to say, hey, like, what are you doing? Like, what does your career look like in the next 5 years? Give them a business card, or use your Popple app, send them a text, and that way you have their information and kind of connect that way. So we really recruit hard. Like, we don't just sit back and say, hey, we're going to post some Indeed ads, although we do, right? Because we want to be there. But the biggest problem that people have is like, oh, there's not enough people out there to work. People don't want to work, blah, 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 blah. It's like, well, what are you doing to fix the problem? Like, oh, we posted an Indeed ad on Facebook too. I'm like, oh, cool. But they're not actively recruiting. Like, go out there and find the people that you need to grow this thing. And if you really want to grow, that's what you got to do. So that's what we did.
Yeah. I love the fact, you talked about, waitress in your restaurant or whatever. I'm always looking at those people of, if I'm in a gas station, they're super friendly or super, I'm just like, who is this? It's a great way to recruit. And I think you're so right. People just sit back and throw an ad out so often.
Can't get anybody.
Yeah, just wait for somebody to come and walk through their door. Let's have a hiring fair, a career fair.
Yeah.
Open interviews today. How many times do you see that? Who's just sitting there wasting their time waiting for somebody to walk through the door these days?
Yeah, I like that you said that too, because
I think it's a great idea.
Anytime I see somebody that's talented somewhere, we've had this conversation. Kaz is sitting over here, and he knows that we were talking about adding a guy at Ballard, and there's just a guy that works at the grocery store that I go to every Friday when we get our groceries, and this dude just is a hustler. He's clean cut. All he does is he's just checking me out at Hy-Vee grocery store. But man, he's just like the fastest. He's just got his shit together. And I'm like, why is that guy not working for me? I mean, I don't know what. And so I always look for people anywhere I go. And some of our best hires at Perfect Cut have been other people, like they've been salespeople. They come in to sell us. Tiffany Vasky, who started our Eastern Iowa branch for us, she was a salt sales rep. She came in to sell us salt. Nice looking, super educated, just a great sales pitch. And she left, and Matt's like, why don't she work for us? And like, like we're looking for people that are high level. And when we see somebody that comes in to sell us something, or we meet people and we're like, man, that's an A player right there. I don't care who they work for. Let's tell them our story. Let's talk about who we are, where we're going, see if they're happy. Maybe it's not a right fit now, but we just kind of we put that seed out there. If you're looking for a change, we're looking for great people. And we've gained some of our best people that way, just looking at what, who's doing great things for the companies they work for. Maybe they're working for a company and they've been there 10 years and they're kind of not really moving up, and we give them opportunities. And so I like that you're doing that, because we talk about that all the time. I see all these freaking Facebook ads and looking now hiring, looking for this, must have 6 years lawn care experience. I'm like, what? That's never going to work. Like, how about looking for great people with a great attitude, with an aptitude to learn? And we'll train you, but we're looking for great people. We're not, experience is just so overrated in my opinion. We have a training program. Yeah, it takes us longer to get that person up to the level, but I'll take great people all day long over people with experience and a shitty attitude.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And I think we've been to about 30 job fairs this year already.
So you are doing a lot of that as well. We just went to our local community college and did spoke to all their people in the horticulture program. So we're doing some of that stuff as well. But job fairs, are they working decent for you?
Yeah, it just depends what you're looking for, right? Like I'm going after a person like with a sales guy that maybe was going into marketing or wants to be an entrepreneur someday. Like get them before they get out into their career. Because if you can make them your first job and get them bought into the vision and culture, they're going to stick around with you for a long time.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you have any desire? I already know the answer to this, but because I'm sure your phone's ringing, Jonas, all the time, and people are saying, "Hey, you take care of my lawn. We'd love a patio." I mean, are you guys just, you don't have any misdirection where you're like, "Yeah, we could probably do patios. We could probably mow."
Nope.
You're just
So I
honed in.
know my profile. I know I'm a quick start. Like I know I like shiny objects. I like to chase the money, and that's what I used to do in the past. Like try everything. I failed at a lot of things, but I figured out a lot of things too along the way. But now it's like, okay, I have this vision, I have a path. I know what's going to look like the next 3 to 5 years, probably even 10 years. I write it down every single day, and I know what we're going to do, and it's going to keep it simple, stupid, like they always say.
Right. Yeah. Because I already knew your answer because I think you're honed in so well now. But we get, as entrepreneurs and business owners, we get a little distracted sometimes. It's like, man, before you know it, you got a guy like, "Hey, Jonas, we could probably, man, we could do irrigation service. We got all these clients and they've got irrigation. Why, we could do their startup and shut down and service, and we could get 4 more vans and we could add $500,000 in revenue or whatever the number is." And before long, my brain's like, "Shit, we could do that." And then next thing you know, now you're doing irrigation. And then, well, we could probably do mulch. We can put mulch down. We're pretty good. Yeah. And then you're distracted and then you're doing.
I just feel like you're like a prostitute of your business. Like you just do anything for everyone. Where I would rather just sub those out, make 20% and not do anything. But yeah, I don't even want to do that at this point.
Right. Yeah.
There's a lot of work. A lot of work to do that too.
We get it, and we did it all. I mean, we were sweeping, we were cleaning windows, and it's like, well, we put down salt and sand. Why wouldn't we just sweep? We'll buy some sweepers. That makes sense. Lost our ass on that deal.
Right. Yeah. I've been there. I've done it too, and like I know what works for us. I know what our market looks like. I know how we're going to scale it. So I just want to keep it simple.
Jonas, speaking of your market, when you look to branch out and go into a different community, what are you looking for out of those communities? I mean, I'm sure it's got to be within a certain range of where you're at, your home office is. What else are you looking for out of those things?
Probably like obviously we're going to look at how many people are, like the population of the area, how many companies are in the area, how big we can get our branch in that area, what percentage of the marketplace can we tap into. We're doing a bunch of research before we go there, and we usually have it figured out pretty good. And then, we have a specific profile of people that we're going after, certain income, certain neighborhoods that we really want to be in, and that's kind of where we'll target first. So.
Yeah, that makes sense. We do the same thing. We've looked at several different markets. And do you typically send, so when you go into a new market, do you typically try to first maybe find somebody that's at your headquarters that, hey, we think that John over here, John's a stud, he's a leader. Hey, John, are you interested in going to Green Bay? Are you interested in going to Market X? And move one of your leaders to that market as the market manager, branch manager, whatever you call those positions?
Yep, exactly. So whether you're a sales guy or a technician, from the day you start with them, the career path of becoming a partner. So once you get here, like, okay, I got to do X, Y, and Z over X amount of time, then you can open up a new market. And that's what happened to the other 2 branches. And the 5th branch is all the same way. We know that's probably not scalable either because we can't get people in the door fast enough that are at that caliber. So we're going to try out some other things too. But yeah, so that's our model right now.
Yeah, that's a great thing because then you give, then not only do you have a career path for people, you give them opportunity, and then you can also tell that story. Hey, John started as a lawn tech, and John's running this branch now, and we do that even in our orientation where we say, hey. We give some examples of people that started as hourly people that are, now, account managers, branch managers, leaders. And so that they know that if they want to do all the work and they want to learn and elevate, that there's opportunity for them. And if they're looking for a career, we've got the place for them.
Agreed. And, like you go back to the early days of most companies, how many times did you have a stud that worked for you that just went off and either started his own company because you could never afford to keep him, or went off and did bigger and better things? Again, because you just couldn't afford it. Well, if you can say, hey, well, we'll take you up, be a partner with me, give you a little bit of equity or give you a branch manager position, like why would they want to go anywhere? Why not just do this thing together instead of being, competitors?
Sure. So are your branches, Jonas, are they they're not franchises. I don't believe, but
No.
you own the branches, and you give some sort of either profit sharing or ownership to the guy that heads that piece of that branch up.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, so every branch that we open up, they get a small portion of equity, and they also get a profit share as well. You know,
Nice.
obviously, there's terms and conditions in there, like how long it's going to take and what the profitability has to get to. And then our CFO does, monthly meetings with them, goes over their P&L, make sure everything looks good. And yeah, so we're constantly doing that just to make sure that they're profitable and they're up and running as fast as they can.
Fantastic. So, 8 million, that's a big number. That's a big growth plan. What do you got? What's your projections? As you mentioned, your 3, your 5, and even 10-year plan, and I think every good company should. We do the same thing. We've got our goals. We talk about them at our weekly meetings. We talk about our quarterly meetings. We see if we're on track. What's it going to take to get there? Where do you see Turf Badger going? What's the 3 and 5-year plan?
So by next year, there'll be 10 locations for sure. I'd like to do like 12 joint ventures a year. But by 5 years, it would be 100 plus is the goal.
Really?
Wow.
That's pretty ambitious.
In 10 years, I'd like to do 1,000, but we'll see.
You coming to Des Moines? We got to be looking out for Turf Badger in Des Moines.
It's on the list.
Do you?
I don't mind. You don't scare me.
With all the policies and procedures that you have into place, it almost sounds turnkey. Have you ever thought of franchising this thing out? Maybe that's some of your goal in the long run?
I have, and I've talked about it. We've looked into it quite a bit. I'm not sold on it 100%, but maybe someday that could be an option. Like, we'd like to do some joint venture stuff with smaller companies to help grow this thing. With some sales guys or technicians that we bring through to help grow it that way. But we're kind of rolling out a franchise model as we speak. It's not so much a franchise, but we're looking for partners. Yeah.
Are you guys considering some small acquisitions as well in markets that gives you a better opportunity to jump in?
Yeah, I'm going through 2 of them right now, actually.
Yeah.
As we speak, we're doing due diligence on one at the moment. I just closed one about a month ago, and we're just getting rolling into another one too. So that's the plan of growth. Yeah.
Nice. We talk about that quite a bit. We moved to the Omaha market, and we really thought we'd jump over there and kick ass. And I tell you, it's finally doing well, but it took us 5 years, and we had several conversations like, man, maybe we just buy a small company that's doing, 750 to $1 million. That would give us at least get us going, get us a little traction, because I think we underestimated. We know in our home market that when we're well known, so when we go in and present, we win. We win most of we win a lot a lot of our opportunities, and we go to Omaha and they don't know they don't know have any idea who we are. We're not a low cost provider. They've never heard of us, and we just really I don't think we understood quite how hard that would be, especially in the commercial market, to go in and try to sell a large corporate facility with a company they've never heard of. And then, of course, like I said, they're like, well, we've never heard of you, and you're 20% higher than everybody else. Well, but we're
really good.
But we're really good. And like, never heard of you. So, sometimes mergers and acquisitions really helps speed up that process, especially if they're the right fit.
Yeah, and mergers and acquisitions are good. They're easier than starting a company, like you said, but it still brings some challenges, right? Getting the teams to work together, trying to figure out branding, what the concept of branding is going to look like, what the role it's going to look like, how you're going to transition from the one company into the next company. So it does bring some challenges, but again, it's a learning process that we all go through and everything adventure that we go in. So just kind of figuring it out. It's been a fun process. Been doing like mergers and acquisitions for the past year, so it's been fun.
Yeah, we had Marvin on.
Learning curve.
We had your buddy Marvin on. It was a great podcast, and it hasn't aired yet, but he talked a lot about that, and he knew he was dialed in on that as well, and
we talk a lot about it.
Yeah, he's dialed in for sure. So what do you, Jonas? What's your actually? I'm going to back up because one of our taglines is struggles. Can you mention? I mean, this all sounds great. You're kicking ass. You're growing. I assume you're profitable because that's an extremely profitable line of business. Can you tell us a couple struggles along the way that maybe you didn't see with that rapid growth? A couple things that have happened maybe that you maybe overlooked or didn't think was going to be an issue that maybe became one.
Oh, for sure. Like even going back to the first company, like just starting out, let's just say we're doing 150,000 a year, whatever, Like I remember the bank calling, saying, "Hey, Jonas, payroll hit today." I'm like, okay, and there's no money in the bank. I'm like, shit.
Yeah.
So I go home. I'm like, God, I hope there's something in the mail. Go home and there's like 3 or 4 checks in the mail. One's a bigger check, like $1,500. when deposited and made payroll. So yeah, we all go through the crap. More recently, I still make mistakes. I mean, I'd say I'm still batting a pretty good average, but just last year alone, I made an $80,000 mistake. Like, so we all go through them, and at this point, it just the bigger that we get, the bigger mistakes we make. They just cost us more money, and it's like, man, I really had to learn a hard lesson there. And then I'd say, like, when I first started back over, like, I knew what the model was going to look like. I didn't realize how fast it was going to go, and like just not having enough trucks, and then through COVID, you couldn't find anything, and that was a struggle. So yeah, like getting operators at that time was a struggle, just trying to figure out the new business in a new area. Then as we got, a couple of years in, we started figuring those things out, and yeah, it was definitely a challenge for sure. Like driving every single morning at 4 o'clock, driving 2.5 hours, going to knock doors all day by yourself, or even with one technician, and then driving home at night. Like, yeah, it's not fun. Like, I want to see my kids. I want to hang out with my family, but I just knew that I had to put my back up against the wall and just go to work. And that's what I did. And so that's just what happened. And I grinded my ass off that year. Like, I hadn't worked that hard in probably 10 years, but I didn't have a choice. I had to make it work, and came out on the other end pretty good.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, that's just, I hope our listeners heard that. I mean, 4 a.m. I mean, you went out and just did the freaking work. And I think some people just sit around and they make excuses, man. And I remember I mentioned this too often, but when I was doing consulting, people would tell me that, I can't get here, I can't get there. And I'd give them all these suggestions, and, but I don't do that. I don't want to get there in the morning. I don't want to be, it's like, I'm not really a morning person. I'm like, what do you mean you're not a morning person? So you're not there in the morning when your crews go out? You don't meet with your team? Like, how, you're the owner. And then I'm like, well, then you're just going to be stuck where you're at, man. You're not willing to do the work it's going to take to get to the next level. And when you're driving at 4 a.m. to knock on freaking doors, that's what you got to do sometimes. And you got to go freaking hand out door hangers, and you got to do all the work. And I think it also builds a lot of credibility with your team. Like, dude, I've done this. I've made the phone calls. I've knocked on doors. I've hung door hangers.
Yeah, well, and you could have easily had just said, well, my state shut down. It's COVID. That's just what they did. I didn't, and you drive to a different state. I mean, most people wouldn't even think outside the box to even think about driving to another state. So I just think it's awesome.
Well, Leroy, you were jumping on I talked to you this last spring. You were out on a lawnmower at one point. You were out spreading chemicals at one point when you were shorthanded. I mean, you're like, dude, I'm out in the field.
Yeah, as a business, you got to do what you got to do sometimes. If the work's not getting done, somebody has to jump in and do it. It's the last thing I want to do, because my time should be better spent doing other things. But sometimes you just have to do what you have to do. So, Jonas, what do you guys do in the winter? I mean, obviously in Wisconsin, the Michigan, it's much colder in the wintertime. I'm sure you can do some indoor things, but what do all your people do? Do just everybody stay employed year round with you?
For the most part, yeah. But we built a different model, like I said, going back to the billing subscription, like just really fix their cash flow throughout the winter too. Like, we don't have to worry about not having the big dips, and gains in the spring. Of course, we still have a lot of gains in the summertime when we're busy, but we went to subscription billing for all of our services. So we get paid 12 months out of the year, and really helped out with cash flow. We don't have to lay people off. Our sales guys go back to cold calling. So we try to keep everyone as busy as we can. Some people just want to get laid off in the winter, and that's fine. We'll lay some people off, but if they don't want to, we try to keep them busy.
Nice. Yeah. So you're billing your clients 12 months a year. So they sign up for a 6-7 step lawn program, some pest control. It's a 12-month bill. So nice. Yeah. Because we do a little different than that, but yeah, that makes sense. We're also in the snow business, but yeah, then you've got your cash flow. When we kept our people on in the winter, it totally changed our business. And that for us was doing seasonal snow. And so then we knew we had income coming in the winter. And when we quit laying people off, we were able to retain our best people. And it totally changed. I remember we'd lay everybody off, and then in the spring we were trying to get everybody back, and we'd get about half of them, and we'd be starting over. It was just a freaking
Well, you're so much more prepared for the spring when it comes, because you got all your stuff put together. Your people are ready to go. They're already working. You don't have to retrain everybody. It's so much easier to keep them employed year round if you can afford to do that, for sure.
You missing doing snow removal?
Yeah, definitely.
No, I'm sure. I
hated it.
I know. I haven't done snow in quite a while, and it's weird. It snows, and I'm just looking outside. I'm like, shit. I mean, we got a great team, and I'm like, I did snow for 25 years probably, just every snowstorm. You don't sleep the night before. You're looking at the weather. You're trying to. I mean, it's just. so much better now.
Staying up guessing what time it's going to snow, what time should I have my people in. I told them to come in at 3 and there's a quarter of an inch on the ground, or it's just it's a shit show every time, it seems like.
I sold my company like in November, and like the first snowstorm hit in December, and I was like anxiety through the roof. It's not even my company anymore. Like, I still had anxiety that it was going to snow. Now it's just like, oh, it snowed outside. I didn't even realize it. Like, oh, woke up, there's snow on the ground. I'm like, doesn't really matter anymore.
Yeah, that's nice.
I don't miss it at all.
Yeah, I don't think I'll ever get there as long as I own this business.
You might. Let's talk a little bit branding. I see, we talk to guys a lot about this, and, all your trucks look the same. I mean, I think you've done a great job with your branding, and we talk to guys so much about this, and you see it in your market. We see it here. I mean, guys driving around, they got no logo, no uniforms. How important has that branding been for you? And is that, every vehicle looking pretty much exactly the same, everybody in the same uniforms?
Yep. Branding, it's essentially your business identity, like, means everything. Like, people don't put enough emphasis on it, but yeah, we went outside the box again. So I was going to Green Bay. Everything's green down there, right? So every lawn care company is green because of the Packers or gold or whatever. And I had read a book like the year prior about a company out in New York. I can't remember what it is, but they had a delivery vehicle that was pink. And they only had one vehicle, but they just drove up and down the strip all the time. And everyone's like, oh, I always see your vehicles. And they're like, well, it's not because of they had a ton of vehicles, just because they really stood out. So I was like, then it clicked. I said, if I ever start a new company, the colors are going to be pink. So we switched everything to pink. All of our guys wear pink. All of our trucks are wrapped pink and blue. So yeah, like, branding is super important. Like, just keeping it throughout the same, like, as far as your marketing goes, online, print ads, your vehicle wraps, your shirts, like even to the shoes we wear at this point. It's like, it's all of our branding.
Yeah, your stuff looks good. And I say that all the time too. And back in the day, people used to, when we didn't even have that many trucks, people would be like, man, Perfect Cuts everywhere. And I'm like, we only have 4 trucks. But the difference was you went by 16 white trucks in an hour.
Yeah,
you didn't notice one of them. And then you went by 3 of our blue trucks, and now we're everywhere. And the truth is we weren't. It's just they stood out. And, so we talk to guys all the time. You've got to brand yourself. You've got to have your guys in uniform. You've got to have consistency in every piece. Every collateral that you leave, everything has to be professional if you want to get to that next level. And I see your trucks; they look good. And if they're outside and people look out the window, they know who's out there. They
and
just
we're
know.
trying to be like the hip, cool new kids on the block too. Like, everyone wants us in their yard, and we're just trying to bring that to them. Like, there's this really sweet ass van outside. Like, of course you want that van out there, And just trying to be like, like younger kids, the good looking guys. Like, it all helps. Like, it just does.
You don't hire ugly people?
As we grow it, yeah, we do. I'm one of them.
I'm one of them. we don't put you. Yeah, we don't put you on the front line, bud.
Right.
Yeah, you just stay and do the podcast. Jonas, did I see something on your website? Did your guys, were they riding a Segway, or was there something on? Yeah. Tell me about that. I thought it was yours, and I was trying to show Corey, and I couldn't see it again. What are those things? What are they doing with them?
So that's just like our sales reps talking to people out in the neighborhoods when our guys are out there servicing, like talking to the neighbors, just saying, hey, basically we're in the area. And I got to like 17 sales in a day, and that was the most I did in a day, or it was 15. I got 15, and then James broke mine with 17, and Dylan broke his with 22. And what I found, though, is like I just couldn't get to enough people fast enough. So then, like, well, let's try these Segways out. So we got on Segways, and like, whoa, these things are way faster. And so, like, you can't cut through people's lawn anymore, but, like, they're going 10, 11, 12 miles an hour. And so they can talk to double the people in a short amount of time. So that's just what they're for.
That's awesome. And not only that, it probably draws a ton of attention. Like, who's out? What are those guys doing?
100%.
Yeah. And if you can get the homeowner or the homeowner's kid on a Segway, it's over. They're sold immediately.
Yeah, I love it. I didn't even realize you did that, but it makes so much sense because now your guys that are not, because there's people in my neighborhood walking door to door and trying to sell every service.
You dodge them. You're like, I'm not talking
First off, I'm getting out of the way, but I'm like, yeah, but I'm thinking how you can hit quadruple the houses. The guys, it looks good. Somebody pulls up on a Segway in my front door. I'm like, I'm going to talk to them.
Yeah,
probably.
what's going on?
What's going on? Yeah. And they're professional. They're dressed well, and that's a killer marketing idea. I freaking love it.
Yeah.
Again, what we did is we created a competition around it for our new sales reps. Like, if you can do this many sales in this amount of time, we'll buy you a Segway. So now they're hurry and try to get through enough sales so that they get a segue. So
Sweet.
we build a bunch of competitions throughout the summer. Like young competitive kids. When you have a leaderboard and they don't want to be at the bottom, so they're trying to do as much as they can to be at the top. So we have a competitive atmosphere. It's kind of like being on a sports team like back in the day, and it's just high energy. It's fun.
That's awesome. Are the Segways, are they wrapped? You got the Segways pink or what?
So it's funny because they come with where you can change the lights in them, like blinkers and stuff, and they actually have pink and blue. So yeah.
Sweet. That's awesome.
Yeah. I think it's awesome thinking about, how you started this thing, you sold your company that you did everything for. You did absolutely everything and probably weren't very profitable doing it. And then you zero in on what you're doing and you're absolutely crushing it. And I think it's awesome. And I believe that, most guys need to learn from that and, do the stuff that you know how to do and do right and be good at one or two things and not just average at fucking everything out there and screwing everything up. Yeah. So that's awesome. It's a great story, man. You're crushing it. Keep it up.
I'm excited to see where you take it.
I remember we were doing like during the month, I was like 6%, 7% profit. Like, what the fuck? Why am I doing
Yeah,
this?
killing yourself.
Now you see like 20s and 30s. Like, holy shit, this is awesome. And it just like it changes everything about your business. Like again, you can pay people more. I have kids that are 24 years old, 25 years old, making 150 grand a year. Like I couldn't do that in my own business. So, I mean, if I started back over in a new market and did mowing and figured it out, I could do it again, but not in my market at the time, not the way we were doing it. Like, so I don't want to discourage other people who are mowing lawns because I have friends that absolutely crush her and doing 15 million a year with 30% profit margin mowing lawns. So like it can be done too.
Yeah, you just got to be really good at it. Just like, and I hate when people say there's no money in mowing. There's no money in mowing. Well, that's the way you do it. Maybe there's no money in mowing, but there's money in everything if you're good at it. You can pick up dog shit if you're really good at it. You can make money doing it, and but you got to be honed in.
But again, you got to be good at that one or two things. You can't, and that's what you guys do. You guys don't mow and do landscaping and do this and do this and do this. You guys specifically do this because you're good at it.
We had to change our business model and hone in.
Jonas,
same as what you've been doing, Leroy. Is Leroy was like focusing now on what are you good at. Like you got out of the mowing pretty much, and like what are we good at?
We weren't good at it, which just wasn't us, and that doesn't mean that there's no money in it. It's just there's no money in it for us because we suck at it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the bottom line.
I just don't want to discourage people who are mowing lawns. Like, I can't do this in my market, or there's no money because again, I have many friends that have multi-million-dollar companies. They're big profit margin mowing lawns, so it can be done.
Absolutely.
Jonas, one question we ask everybody on the Green Grind: what is the best business advice you've ever been given?
Think bigger.
Think bigger. That was quick and easy.
Check it out.
Think bigger.
Think bigger. I love it.
Awesome.
I hired a mentor that changed my life. Like I was doing $250,000 in revenue, and I just trying to figure it out. Beat my head up a bucket against the wall. Like I hated it. Like I couldn't figure it out. And then I finally was like, I bit the bullet. Like I'm gonna hire this guy and see what happens. And then now he's still my mentor to this day. Still a really good friend. But he paved the path for us, and he produced some killers out of our coaching program. And so the first thing that he ever told me, because I was a little kid from the small ass town that didn't know anything, because I didn't know. You don't know what you don't know. And then I really started learning, really started reading books, and started listening to more podcasts and focusing my time. Like 3 years ago, I stopped drinking completely, and I got super honed in on what I really wanted to do. And and then so the first thing he ever told me was think bigger, and I'll never forget it because I was just this kid from a small town. Now my dreams, I want to go across the nation and maybe another country someday. So that's
fantastic, man. I agree completely, man. People just they hold themselves back with fear and lack of just of the what's available to them. And I think we had James Mansky on. He said the same thing. Like people tell you can't do it. Bullshit. That's just not true, man.
Yeah, and I think lack of discipline's a lot of it for people too. I think some people think big, but they're not willing to get up at 4:00 in the morning and go drive to a different state and knock on doors.
Yep.
And I think you have to have the discipline to get up in the morning and be very, very specific in what you're doing to meet those goals.
Yeah, awesome.
I was a wrestler back in the day, so I always was super competitive. I always worked my ass off. I grew up on a farm. That was my background. And then I started the business, and it was like I was working my ass off, but wasn't seeing a ton of results, And so it's just like, what am I doing wrong? I couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong. So just hiring that mentor and getting a clear vision of what I really wanted to do, and then working on myself, fixing who I needed to be to get where I wanted to go. And like, okay, now now this day and age, like I've created the vehicle to take me where I need to go. So it just takes a lot of work. Like everyone's like, oh, where the hell did you come from? Like, I haven't seen you around. Like, oh, you're so big, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, I've been doing this for 12 fucking years, you know? Like,
yeah. I get it, man. It takes that whole saying, it takes you 20 years to become an overnight success. And,
right.
You know, you've got to put the freaking work in, and you've got to do it consistent. People always ask me, what's the key? I'm like, consistency, man. You got to put the freaking work in, and you got to outwork people, and you got to outsmart them too. But, man, you got to put the work in. And if you're just sitting around waiting for results, it's just not going to happen. But, Jonas, this is awesome, man. I'm going to be rooting you on. You and I have known each other a while, and I'm super proud of what you're doing there. You're kicking ass, and it's not it's not luck, man. It's you just put the work in, and hopefully you'll get to. We'll welcome you in Des Moines to the Des Moines market, and we like good competition.
Absolutely.
We don't do residential lawn apps really anyway, or pest control, but there's certainly a good market here as well in our growing community. But tell our listeners if they want to check out your company, where do they find you on social media, website? How can they check you out and see what you guys are up to?
Sure, you can just find us at turfbadger.com. Very simple. You can see all of our websites through there. If you guys want to, hit me up. You can find me on Instagram, just at Jonas Olson. Same thing on Facebook. Just follow me on Facebook. I'm really good at answering people's questions. If you send me a message, like, I'm here to help. And I think, like, Corey and you guys are all here to help. Like, these young entrepreneurs, most of the people that you reach out to that are doing good things, they want to help other people do it. So don't be afraid just to reach out.
Yeah, definitely, man. We appreciate it. Hey, awesome. Guys, we drop a new episode of The Green Grind every Tuesday. We appreciate Jobber and Hustler as our sponsors. If you want to be a guest or you know someone that would be a great guest, you can just jump on the Ballard website. You scroll down a little bit. The Green Grind logo's on there. There's just a quick thing that questions, you shoot it. It shoots an email directly to me, and we'd love to talk to you guys about that. And I think that's all we got today. Jonas, we appreciate you spending an hour with us, man. You're kicking ass. Keep doing what you're doing, and I'm going to follow up with you. I'd like to get you on maybe next year. I want to hear about.
Yeah, let's see if we made this $8 million mark. So I hope you do.
I think you'll probably blow it out of the water. We want to know kind of how that went for you, and we'll get you back on.
Cool. Sounds good to me.
Thanks so much, Jonas.
All right, buddy. Have a great day. Thank you.